Boom, shakalaka boom. You're tuning back in. It's hour two of the most incendiary show in all of America. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I'm, of course, Clay Edwards, coming at you live here on 103.9 FM. On the big stick, as we like to call it. Streaming worldwide at SaveJXN on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble. On Rumble, just search Clay Edwards Show. Real quick, before we get to our guest, Mr. AJ Rice, this segment brought to you by our friends out at Guns in Gear, located Highway 51 North in Gluckstadt, Mississippi. That's Guns in Gear. Swing by today or shop them online at gunsingear.co. They got all your favorite new guns, pre-owned guns in stock, ready to go do what you do with guns. Pew, pew, have fun. Defend that Second Amendment right. You never know when they may come to try to take it from you. They're also the home of No Limit Ammo. And, of course, they buy guns, too. Got one you need to shake off, want to trade one in? That's what I did the other day. I didn't just sell a gun. I traded a gun in. It's like I'm not using my 9, and I need a little 380. I need a little pocket pistol. So I traded my 9 in on a 380. And I'm loving the 380, the compatibility of it. So swing by, check them out today. Let them make you a fair market value offer on your gun. And maybe you got an estate. Maybe you inherited something from your papa, your granddad, something like that. And you need to shake it off. Don't know what it's worth. Let Hunter and the team put a number on it for you. That's Guns and Gear, Yandell Road in Gluckstadt, Mississippi. The Guns and Gear text line, if you want to text into the show this morning, is 769-241-1944. 769-241-1944. All right, man, we are live here in the Men's Health and Women's Wellness Studios in Madison, Mississippi, or Florida, Mississippi, I mean. We've got AJ Rice on the line. AJ, you there?
I'm here, brother. Great to be here.
All right, great. This is our first time doing a Zoom on the radio show. I've done this on my live streams plenty of times, but first time doing it here. So glad to have you. Glad the technology is doing what it's supposed to do and working. How you doing this morning?
Doing good, brother. Doing good. World War III never happened. I don't know what happened. I was told World War III was coming, and all of a sudden, poof, it vanished. It vanished.
I was told the same thing, too. All of these insiders on X told me that they had sources inside the Trump administration that told them World War III was coming, that Trump didn't know what he was doing.
It's funny. These are people also that voted for him 3 times. And you either thought he was different, you thought he was maybe more like Reagan, you thought that he was less like Dick Cheney, or you didn't. So, this is a little exercise here on, whether or not you really believed what you voted for the 3 times to begin with. Because if you've got this man on a short leash, then we've got a problem. Because if you're an influencer, an insider, and Clay, I don't know how much you know about me, but Donald Trump, the president, is our client here. Donald Trump Jr. is our client here. Pete Hegseth is our client here. And when I say client here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the CEO of Publius PR here in Washington, D.C., here in the swamp. It's getting hot today, might be 100 degrees. Luckily, I'm down in the sewers underneath the swamp where it's cleaner, right? I'm the subterranean homesick alien here. And Tulsi Gabbard is our client. So the supposed Twitter army, the supposed X army, right? The armchair generals from the Barker Loungers, right? Trump is not going to get his foreign policy from the bathroom wall, because that's what a lot of this social media is. It's the bathroom wall. Your mom wears combat boots, whatever the hell it is, right? So he's not going to follow the Twitter army like that. Now, it is healthy in a democracy to have your own supporters critique you when you're doing something dopey. The Democrats wait until their ex-president's almost dead before they start writing these books. Oh, I knew he was mentally deficient all along. So, but that's the test. The litmus test is, who are you influencers really? And, did you think Trump all this time, we just celebrated 10 years since the OG came down the golden escalator, did you think he was secretly Dick Cheney all this time? Or is he more like Reagan? Oh, Clay, I remember when we invaded Grenada and it caused World War III with the Soviet Union. I remember when Reagan bombed Libya, killed Gaddafi's children, and it caused World War III. I remember when Margaret Thatcher invaded the Falkland Islands and it caused World War III. Wrong. None of that happened. So a lot of these people, they're searching for the little sliver of a sliver of a sliver of audience that makes them relevant, or they've been frauds all along. So, the audience will have to decide there.
I have been calling several of these people frauds all along, grifters at minimum. And look, I came out on this show several times, and I've said, look, man, I'm a guy here in Jackson, Mississippi, with a 10th grade education that really, really woke up about 5 years ago, but I got common sense. And I can look there and I can sit here and say this Iran, Israel thing, this is above my pay grade. And I voted for Trump 3 times. I'm going to trust Trump. My spidey senses says I don't like having to get involved in any of this nonsense, but I'm going to trust Trump. And lo and behold, drop a few warheads on a couple of, foreheads, ironically. And then 2 days later, look at there, a ceasefire. It's almost like he knows what he's doing. Look,
as a Mississippi will love this. As an Irish Catholic guy from Philadelphia, I'm more inclined to let Allah sort this stuff out with these groups of people over there.
Amen.
But Trump never said boots on the ground. And, that's the fear monger. Oh, there's a selective service starts now. Go register now for the draft. I mean, that's what they do, right? So if you're going to let Allah sort it out, that's fine. The only problem with that is that, Israel only has a certain type of capability. And Iran would be, if they did get a nuclear weapon, they would be the only country on earth that runs off of Sharia law, which is Islamic law, okay, which is a bit insane. And they would have a nuclear weapon. Now I've had, some smart people come in, well, AJ, Pakistan has a nuclear weapon. That's correct. I'm not happy about Pakistan having a nuclear weapon either. Now, Pakistan does not run off of Sharia law, not right now. That's always the fear there. Now, Bill Clinton allowed Pakistan to get a nuclear bomb. He allowed North Korea to get one. Now, the difference between Iran and Pakistan, and I'm not trying to bore the audience with a geography lesson here, is that India acts as a counterweight to Pakistan. So there's mutually assured destruction there. But if the mullahs in Iran get a bomb, then you're going to have the Saudis want one and the Jordanians want one, and you've got a mini nuclear arms race in the most volatile region on planet Earth. So, Trumpzilla says, I'm sending the B-52s. I want everyone to watch them go west while I go east. And, they put a couple holes in the ground. And it sounds like the ordinances did their job.
AJ, when I was at a tough man competition out here in middle of nowhere, Mississippi, Saturday night, when I started getting the breaking news that we had hit them with the bunker busters, and I just instead of fear, like I had been pumped up all week to have, oh no, it's World War III, I had this enormous sense of American pride take over. For the first time in a long time, I felt that feeling like, oh, wow, we're back. I really did. It was kind of a Top Gun moment.
Sure.
I'm not trying to be funny at all here either. It was the first time that I really felt a lot of patriotic pride due to something that our military did or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Every now and then they F around and they got to find out. And we just reminded them that America ain't nobody's punk. I loved it.
Sure. And this audience needs to be reminded, you're being played with this World War III nonsense. Okay? Because Trump's been president 5-6 months, and World War III almost started like 7 or 8 times. Ukraine and Russia, World War III. Israel and Gaza, World War III. India and Pakistan 3 weeks ago, World War III, right? The Eagles and the Cowboys, World War III, right? So, it's just ridiculous, and you're being played. Unfortunately, there are people on our side that get caught up in the frenzy. Now, there are some people, they're libertarians. They don't want any bombs dropped on anyone ever. You know, you can come beat their wife, and you know they're not gonna use their 9mm like you were talking about earlier. They're not gonna do it for whatever reason, right? They're ankle grabbers, whatever reason. There are people, they use a purity test. They don't take each situation as a unique event. They've got this purity test. They just smear it on the wall, and that's the end of it. Really, there's no discussion with those people. But there are people that know Trump, and I'm not going to name any names. You can name them. There are people that know, because some of them we work with. There are people that, and I've told them this, they work with Trump for 10 years. They've interviewed him 1,000 times. Did you think that he's going to unzip his skin suit and Liz Cheney's going to jump out? That is not who this man is. That's not who he is. It is America first. And America first means we're not going to let a Sharia law crazy, apocryphal regime have a nuclear weapon and blackmail the planet with it.
You know, AJ, I'm way more worried about Civil War than I am World War III.
There you go.
I mean,
sure.
honest, that concerns me way more than World War III is the enemy at home than abroad. Because we've got way more enemies here that could affect your, and all of my listeners' day-to-day lives way beyond what's going on over there. Now, I don't mind keeping them in check, but I really want to keep our Democrats in check here. That is my main
right. Focus. Right. And look, that, you know, and to some of their defense, the America First people, the purity test, America First, you know, no, you know, don't send any bombs into Syria. You know, I mean, that is their focus. You know, they're worried more about LA burning down than Tehran. Fair enough. But when you're president of the United States, the most powerful country on earth, you have to worry about all of it. And this man is spinning plates. He's spinning plates. And he's tough, like Reagan. I mean, Reagan had a lot of military actions from 1980 to 1988. And he didn't trigger World War III, where, you know, you actually had the Soviet Union at that time that, you know, you could have had a legit World War III. You know, having a World War III with Iran, who got their airspace shut down in like 11 minutes by Israel, you know, sending, you know, planes from World War I to spy on our aircraft carriers. You know, I don't really see a World War III there. Now, if you let Iran have a nuclear weapon and you let them have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can come flying into Mississippi, then you have a problem. But it's just weird because we all see the same man. And I'll just remind the audience, Trump, in his first term, brought the communist leader of China, Xi Jinping, to Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach County, Florida. Beautiful spread, beautiful property. He sits them down. They're going to have, you know, General Tso's chicken or Mongolian beef or something, right? That's what they're going to eat. And in between, you know, the Mongolian beef and the General Tso's chicken, he leans over and says, "Hey, Xi, I just fired 100, Tomahawk missiles into Syria. You know, can you pass the mashed potatoes?" Right? That's what he did. So this is who you're dealing with here. You're not, you know, he didn't wake up. He's not going to wake up and become George W. Bush. You know, God bless George W. Bush. He's a great painter, I guess. But we're not talking about rebuilding schools and roads. We're not talking about turning Iran into South Dakota. We're talking about stopping a villain, a group of villains, from having a very powerful weapon.
Well, what you saw was a great example of people expecting to know everything immediately. And the minute that Trump doesn't announce all of his war plans or game plan or whatever you want to call it, people freak out and they start making their own assumptions as to what was going on. It was wild to watch. And I think a lot of people really exposed themselves over the last week. And I'm glad they did, because now we know who's really MAGA and who's not, and who trusts the president and who doesn't. I, for one, am proud of myself. I trusted the president. And I think we were rewarded for not turning our backs on him immediately. Guys like Dave Smith and others who 2 weeks ago were screaming he should be impeached.
Dave Smith. That's right. Well, he might still be saying it, you know. Well, Dave Smith's a 5-star general. You didn't know that? I mean, he's he's a reincarnation of Pershing and Omar Bradley and a lot of other people. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, he's a libertarian. He's interesting on a lot of issues. part of the issue here is, I run a media company. Yes, I write books. I'm a man in the arena. I'm not just a publicist that hides, go to Krispy Kreme and get behind my Venetian blinds. I actually insert myself into these discussions, which many publicists, literary agents, and people in my position do not do. They do not do this. But in a way, I've been in the arena for 25 years. I'm the former executive producer of the Laura Ingraham Show, the former executive producer of the Monica Crowley Show. I've worked with Michael Savage and Glenn Beck and on, Ben Shapiro, on and on and on. But they are in competition with each other. So what you'll get is this sort of kinetic energy where they're all trying to out purity test each other.
Yep.
Who can get that hot take out on Twitter or X the fastest? Who can become the biggest dove the fastest? And they don't have information. Like the idea that you got these people on social media, they're not in a skiff in the White House basement. They're not. I mean, come on, right? So you either think Trump's in charge or you don't. And if you don't, then and you saw the deep state. He's a deep state puppet now. He's really, John McCain abducted him. He's possessed by John McCain or whatever. If we can lose you this quickly, then what the hell have you been doing these 3 times you supposedly voted for him?
AJ, hold that thought. We got to take a break, pay the bills real quick. We'll be back in 4 minutes with AJ Rice, man. I want to get to talking about his book as well, the White Privilege album. I got it right here. You need to get you a copy of it too. This is the Clay Edwards Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on WY. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show here live on WYAB, streaming worldwide at SaveJXN on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble. Real quick, this segment is going to be brought to you by our friends over at Burgers, Blues, Barbecue. Grab lunch or dinner today at all 3 locations: Madison on Main Street, downtown Brandon over by my crib, right there on Highway 80, and of course, the newest location of the 3, right there in Dogwood, right there in Flowood at Dogwood, right in front of Dick's Sporting Goods. Swing by, grab one of their great blue plate lunches today. You always get a rotating meat, plus every day you can get red beans and rice with sausage or hamburger steak with an array of different sides. Or hey, you know what? Burgers is in their name. They got an award-winning burger. Don't swim upstream. Try the damn burger at Burgers, Blues, Barbecue. And hey, side note, speaking of sides, try the fried onion rings with the comeback dressing. You will not regret it. As always, they're famous for their big patios. Sit outside, enjoy the patios. They're screened in. They got big-ass fans. No, literally, that's the name of the fan company that makes the fans, big-ass fans. They keep you cool in the Mississippi heat. Go enjoy it. BurgersBlues.com to order online. All right, man, let's go back to our guest. We got AJ Rice here in the Men's Health and Women's Wellness Studios. We're discussing his new book, The White Privilege Album. I've got it right here. I have a copy, and I gave my buddy Fred Shanks a copy, and we're both loving the dang thing. AJ, what sparked you to write this book and kind of cover the whole white privilege fallacy from a satirical standpoint? Because I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I've made it through chapter 2, and I got through the diabetes and some of the other stuff, and again, absolutely loving it.
Well, you're making me hungry there with that intro, man. That sounds like some good eating happening. I'm on the next flight down there. I want some big ass fans too. Hey, we're gonna be 100 degrees here in Virginia today, so it's like Mississippi weather here in Virginia.
It is. When you said that, I was like, it really is a swamp up there. Welcome to Mississippi. I thought you were reading my forecast.
It's crazy. So the White Privilege album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides, right? I couldn't resist. So big shout out today, to the very fine people. I know they all tune into Clay every morning. You know who you are. The White Privilege album is volume 2. It's a sequel to a book I put out in 2022 called The Woking Dead. So I am writing. I'm trying to be the anti-woke Harry Potter here. I'm writing a series of books that are sort of an anthology. They're loosely connected in the sense that a lot of the same targets are there, But we are in a target-rich environment when you're dealing with cancel culture and political correctness that, you could rewrite one of these books every day. So with The Woking Dead, I did kind of a broad spread of what wokeism is, where it came from, and how it affects different aspects of American culture and really Western civilization. White Privilege album, I narrowed it down to the racial element of it, the sort of race hustle part of it. And all this talk about white privilege and to a lesser degree, toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. But I'm a radio guy. I grew up on Rush. I was trained by Andrew Breitbart and Laura Ingraham. I try to lead with humor. There's plenty of people out there that can give you the speeches from Socrates, they're great, and we work with them. Victor Davis Hanson and so on. But I am here to use irreverent humor to illustrate truth. And if you hang a joke on someone, if you mock them with their own language, that's what I seek to do with this book. So I kidnapped this term, the white privilege term, and the white privilege album, obviously with an apology to the Beatles. I'm using it, I'm weaponizing it, and I'm turning it back against them. Because make no mistake, and Mississippi knows this, when you hear this term, white privilege, whether you hear it in sports, because I hear it, with Caitlin Clark nonsense. I hear it sometimes when they're talking about SEC football or Big Ten football. I hear it, in the NBA with this one and that one, and this general manager doesn't like the Chinese and this one does. And when you hear it, you have to understand these are a group of cultural Marxists that are coming for the three things that sort of make America great and, also writ large sort of Western civilization. And when I say Western civilization, I mean Judeo-Christian, Greco-Roman civilization, right? It's the civilization that gave us everything from, Jesus Christ to Ronald Reagan, right? And everything in between. Whether it's Einstein or Thomas Edison, it doesn't matter. There's no other civilization on earth that produced these people. I'm sorry, that's the truth. Not all civilizations are created equal. The left hates that. They hate the fact that we are not a multicultural country. We're a multi-ethnic country, but we have one culture here. It's Western culture. So when you hear the term white privilege, that's what they're coming after. They're coming after your culture. They're also coming after the middle class. And finally, the third thing that they're coming after is the nuclear family. They can't stand it. That's why Black Lives Matter put it up on their website, that the nuclear family was a construct of white privilege. And it's an amazing thing when you look at the stats that there were more African-American nuclear families in, 1905 than there were in 2005. So what happened? Well, cultural Marxism happened. It's not new. Wokeism is just an offshoot of that. So look, with the book, I do 12 chapters. I call them the 12 months of privilege. Chapter 1 is January. Chapter 12 is December. And I go through an entire calendar year defending our holidays, our traditions, telling stories, sports stories, political stories about certain Americans that risked, quite frankly, blood, treasure, reputation, and in some cases their life to try to make, Western civilization and America a fairer place. And I don't sugarcoat anything, and I write the way I talk. So there's a lot of jokes along the way. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's, a pretty good follow-up to my first book, which is also available now. So you can get it in paperback or audio, both of them. Both of them audio versions on Amazon. And look, it's if you want to have a laugh and learn at the same time, that's what both of these books are.
Yeah, AJ, I started this show in February. Well, it started online in 2020, but it moved to radio and got an official name February of 2021. We just had our 1000th episode last Friday. And so we started this thing in the peak of cancel culture, the absolute peak of it. And it's something that we have fought against and railed against. And I felt like we had won this thing. And I feel like there's only a few vestiges of the 2020 woke time frame left. And the WNBA is like if 2020 if the woke had won, I think it's the WNBA is what the rest of America would look like. And I say that to say this. I had a situation here locally, a local energy drink company that supports our military and all this stuff. I do a business podcast or a business show here, entrepreneur show, where I like to interview local business owners and stuff and hear their story, especially conservative ones who have felt like they've been,
Sure.
not allowed to tell their story without having to worry about cancel culture. Like I said, I thought we had beat cancel culture here in Mississippi, one of the reddest of the red states. And these guys came out and said, "Nah, we can't interview with you. You're too right wing." I was like, well, I guess that's a compliment. But man, I felt sorry for them. I really did, because it's like they didn't get the memo and it's so ironic that it happened on Juneteenth too. Like, they didn't get the memo that they were free, that they didn't have to worry about what the wokes thought anymore. So when I see a book like yours, you cover things with a sense of humor like I do as well. Jackson, Mississippi is the blackest city in the country, hands down, the blackest city in the country. Its outgoing mayor is a proud Marxist. When he got elected, he said this was going to become the most radical city in the country. What it became was the murder capital of America per capita 3 out of the last 4 years or 4 out of the last 5 years. So I've seen all of this. I've had a front row seat to the end of the world right here in Jackson. Sure. So when I see a book like yours, and I hear these fools call me a racist, and we talk about white privilege, and we talk about all these things, it's kind of like the same people who say that if we bless Israel, we'll be blessed. I'm not feeling very blessed, and I damn sure ain't feeling like I got a lot of privilege.
Right. Well, look, and we've gone through 10 years of Trump, and they've called him every name in the book. They've called his supporters every name in the book. But if you look at this last election, I called it a woke Waterloo moment, because, they lost across the board, as far as the House, the Senate, and the White House. But this was a repudiation. And it was a repudiation not just by a bunch of white people in red hats. The subtitle of the book, Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. I'm being glib, of course. That's my specialty. But I will tell you, someone did bring racial harmony. And it wasn't the second woman and the first Jamaican jerk chicken eater and the first samosa Indian curry maker. And it wasn't Kamala Harris. It wasn't a woman that, never won a primary vote the 2 times she ran, who went through $1 billion, lit it on fire in 100 days. Trump was able to make the Republican Party more working class, more multi-ethnic, which is why, after all the names, Hitler this and Ultra MAGA, and all these different things they called him.
I love that.
Understand, this guy got the Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan, to vote the same way as the Jewish voters in the suburbs of Philadelphia. He got African Americans, men and women, mostly men, but he increased it with both, in Atlanta, in Pittsburgh, in Detroit, in Clark County, Nevada, right? Maricopa County, which is Phoenix. They all moved towards him. How did Hitler do this? People talk about the blue wall. Oh, the blue wall is going to go down, right? In the Rust Belt, right? Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there were 2 blue walls that went down. That was one of them. The other one runs along the Texas-Mexican border from El Paso down to Corpus Christi. Every one of those counties was a blue county. Predominantly Hispanic, Catholic. They don't believe in divorce. They don't believe in abortion. They also left some Marxist dump, most likely, and don't want the Democrats to reimpose it here. So this is the supposedly racist president. This is the great divider. No, he brought more groups together because wokeism and globalism drove these people away. He drove them away. And look, Democrats are still trying to figure it out. I would be done writing books if they ever learned their lesson, but it appears they haven't learned anything from last fall.
No. Hold that thought. We got to take another break here real quick. We've got AJ Rice here in the studio with us, close enough. He's visually here with us in the Men's Health and Women's Wellness studio on WYAB. We'll be right back with another segment discussing his new book, The White privilege album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides. It's available on Amazon.com now. The Audible version is available too. You can also get it on CD, I saw. So check that out, and we'll be right back with more. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show here live on WYAB, streaming worldwide at SaveJXN on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble for y'all this morning. As always, we're here 7 to 9 a.m. And of course, you can always find it all at those aforementioned sites. Go back, listen on demand. The podcast, the audio only podcast, will be available within an hour of the show ending. Usually just search Clay Edwards Show on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music, Audible. And while you're at Amazon Music or Audible, you can find my guest, AJ Rice's new book, The White Privilege Album, bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides. Let me pull AJ's mic back up as we're live here in the Men's Health Women's Wellness Studios. AJ, it's we got about 5 minutes left before we have a hard out. Look, you bring up that you even got it in the title of the book, the very fine people on both sides jab there, which I love that you did that. And that is the hoax that just won't go away. And it's been phenomenal to me to watch even Obama this last election cycle insist on beating that dead horse, even to the point where he got called out by people on his own side, by very fine people on his own side, called him out for continuing to beat that dead horse. How do you think we got to this point where people are just told not to believe their lying eyes? And is it just left versus right, truth be damned at this point?
Well, I mean, first of all, the very fine people hoax was the sort of foundational lie. It's almost that the very fine people is coming up on its 10-year anniversary too. It's the foundational lie that a lot of the Trump is a racist, nonsense was built on top of, right? It was brought up by Biden in debates. Biden claimed that's the reason he ran the first time in 2020. It's been brought up by Chuck Schumer. It's been brought up by Obama, like you said. Kamala Harris brought it up. But it's been debunked. And there's others, losers and suckers, and Trump's against IVF and, this, that, and the other thing. He's against immigrants and, except he married two of them. Two of his wives were immigrants. I mean, look, it just goes on. It goes on and on and on. Now, obviously, you're looking at a historical figure here. The historical figure is he's the only man in history that had never served in government prior and had never been a general. Like Eisenhower, Jackson, Zachary Taylor, George Washington, Grant, so on. And, the fact that he won, and then obviously we had a setback in 2020, and then he won again. I mean, he is the indispensable man. He is the man of the era. And this goes back to what we started the hour with, is that if you can't see that, he is not just a counterculture icon. This is an American. You're witnessing history for the ages right now.
I love it. I love that I'm alive.
And Trump has to take a 100-year view, which is hard to do. It's hard to do, because he moves in little small increments because he's dealing with so many different things. He has some second gear that he has, in his 70s. He's running. I mean, look, I was at the White House a couple weeks ago. I'm on the phone with him all the time. He's surrounded by 40, 30, 20-year-olds, and he's just running circles around them. He's like a whirling dervish around them. He's managing, right. I mean, he's managing, Los Angeles while he's dealing with, peace treaties in Africa. There's things that goes on the State Department just cut some deal with a peace treaty with these two countries in Africa the other day. No one even notices this stuff because everyone's chasing cars, right? Because he'll rain down a barrage of missiles over here. The media and the Democrats go chasing it. Meanwhile, he's going this way. Kind of like what he just did with the B-52s, right? He sent 2 this way and 6 that way. And,
loved it.
But here's what I will say. Republicans, we're always, sometimes we need a little kick in the rear end to get in line. The Democrats, however, don't seem to have learned their lesson from the last election. And you have to believe them when they talk. They lifted up their skirt. There's 72 genders under there. And, what else is under there? Well, they've told us who they are. And who are they? They're burning Tesla dealerships down. They're turning planes around filled with MS-13. They're for the execution of healthcare executives on the streets of Manhattan, right? They're for sending Tim and Jim into the women's locker room still. So the American people should believe them. They should believe that, they're not going to learn from the last election, and that when we go to vote in the midterm elections next year, to not put them in charge of anything because they've learned nothing. John Fetterman may have learned something. Bill Maher seems to have learned something. But the rank and file schmucks of the Democrat Party, they haven't learned anything.
How about the fact that David Hogg wasn't woke enough for them? I mean, you're familiar with who David Hogg is, the Miami school shooting survivor who's the big anti-gun guy now, and I get they voted him as vice president of the Democrat Party or something or another.
Right. I mean, he needs to lose his virginity before he starts running anything in the Democrat Party. I mean, they
lost one of them.
The Democrats, they are out of money. They are thinking of taking out loans. The DNC is raising no money because they don't know who they are. They know that if they actually behave like their base, and I just listed for you what their base believes in, they will never win again, right? So they're trying to get to this spot where they can sort of resurrect some sort of maybe Southern moderate governor, right? Or something like a Bill Clinton type. But Bill Clinton could not win the governorship of Arkansas if he ran tomorrow.
Well, that guy doesn't exist now. That Dixiecrat governor doesn't exist anymore.
Right. So they're looking at, Andy Beshear and some of these other people, but maybe Shapiro in Pennsylvania. Look, my point, though, is they are lost. They are broke. And John Thune and Johnson need to get the president's agenda passed because, the Democrats are only going to be wandering around in the Valley of the Blind for so long, right? I mean, Rahm Emanuel, who I know, who, is an Obama villain type, he's very smart, though. You have to understand. And he sees it. Will he run for president? I don't know. But his ideology on how to fool the American people into thinking the Democrats are moderate is one that you have to watch. You have to watch guys like him. He is a tactician. So whether he becomes a nominee, I mean, he's not a very good person that has governed anything great. I mean, he took Chicago and dropped it in the outhouse as mayor. But ideologically, he's on the right path.
AJ, we're up against a hard break, brother. I got to go. Thank you so much. I got your number. I want to get some books from my audience. Y'all can find them at Amazon. I'll give them more information on the other side. AJ, thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Keep fighting. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You too. Peace.